By the 2010s and 2020s, everyone in the coin collecting hobby knows the unfortunate truth. The penny was a major money loser and a bottomless pit for the US government. In 2024, it cost about 3.69 cents to make a single cent, almost 4 times the face value, more than triple, contributing to seigniorage losses of over $80 million per year on the penny alone, which proved disaster for the federal government. Cash usage began to decline and most pennies don't circulate. They go from bankrolls to store tills to jars, drawers, parking lots, and even under couch cushions, effectively out of the money supply. In early 2025, the US Treasury decided to begin ending production of the penny, and the Treasury placed its final order for cent blanks and announced those once they are used up, the minting will stop. On November 12, 2025, a historic day for the penny arrived. At the Philadelphia Mint, the last circulating Lincoln cents were ceremonially struck. Camera rolls, officials speak, and with the push of a button, the 230-year American journey of minting cents has ended. So what about 2026? The good news is that we will still have pennies in 2026, despite them not being produced for circulation. The Federal Reserve is already reducing or halting penny distribution from its branches, and retailers will start to adopt rounding practices for cash transactions, typically to the nearest 5-cent increments. While electronic payments will still settle to the cent, exactly what other countries have done, pennies will remain legal tender, meaning that they can be used to purchase everyday items. However, the clear policy is that by late 2026, they will no longer be part of routine circulation. Banks will stop ordering them, retailers will stop giving them, and they'll quietly flow back to the Fed and the Mint's recycling stream. For future collectors, that means that we will be living through a transition, something future Red Books will notice in a footnote, but we will get to experience in real times as coin collectors.
5.
Now let's talk about the part that makes every numismatist sit up a little straighter, the final pennies. To mark the end of the series, the US Mint created a special group of pennies with a tiny omega privy mark, a visual full stop at the end of the cent's 232-year sentence. Here's how it will be structured. The Mint assembled 232 3-coin sets, one for each year since cents were first struck in 1793. Each cent will contain a 2025 Philadelphia Lincoln Shield cent with an omega privy mark, a 2025 Denver cent with the same mark, and for the first time in US history, a 24-karat gold penny, also dated 2025 and carrying the omega privy mark. All 3 coins will be struck in a circulating finish, but of course none of them will ever jiggle in the cashier's till. Well, at least hopefully will never be there. They will be heading straight into the numismatic stratosphere. The US Mint chose Stack's Bowers Galleries to handle the sale, and on December 11, 2025, in a live auction broadcast for their Costa Mesa, California headquarters, these 232 sets crossed the block with no buyer's premium, which means that the price that they will be purchased will be what the buyer will pay, and they will not need to pay an additional fee to the auction house. An almost unheard of gesture meant to emphasize the historic nature of this offering. A few things are making these sets extraordinary and stand out from any other coin released by the Mint. They are officially the last circulating US pennies ever struck, and in any meaningful sense of this phrase, this is one of the most important moments that we as coin collectors will get to visualize. The mintage is tiny, 232 sets for the entire planet, which means that this coin will be an absolute complete scarcity. Set 232, the final set, will be even rarer and include 3 canceled dies used to strike the series, making it a museum-grade artifact by itself. Market watchers are already throwing around numbers in the millions per set for top examples, comparing them to the other end-of-era rarities like the 1913 Liberty Nickel or the 1804 dollar in terms of narrative properties. For those of us who will never earn one, they still serve an important symbolic role. They give a clean endpoint to a series many of us have collected since childhood. Every Whitman blue folder with a Lincoln Sand page now has a natural last date. This 232 Omega penny will be an absolute stunning coin, a cap to one of the longest running coins ever produced in the United States. Now the penny presses are silent. So what is next? The first question that you may be thinking about is how many pennies are out there in circulation right now. This varies by what you mean by in circulation. A 2025 congressional briefing and Fed research put the number of actively circulating pennies at around 114 billion. That's $1.14 billion in face value of pennies. Other analysis that included hoarded dormant pennies pushed the numbers well over 200 billion, which matches earlier estimates of roughly 240 billion pennies scattered across the US, or around $7 worth in pennies per person. Whichever figure you like, the point is the same. There are hundreds of billions of little copper-colored discs still around there. What happens to them? For a clue, look north to Canada, which killed its penny a decade earlier and serves as a great example for us to learn about the effects of stopping the penny. Canada stopped producing pennies in 2012, which stopped distributing them through banks 1 year later in 2013. At the time, about 6 billion Canadian pennies were estimated to be in circulation out of the roughly 35 billion produced since 1908. Over the next decade, the Royal Canadian Mint withdrew and melted billions of them. By 2022, only about 3.5 billion have been reclaimed, and the rest are assumed to be lost, hoarded, or sitting around in collections. Cash transactions are now simply rounded to the nearest 5 cents. Electronic payments still go to the cent. After a brief adjustment period, most Canadians barely noticed. The US is following a very similar path. Pennies will remain a legal tender, but banks will gradually stop recirculating them. Businesses will increasingly round cash totals, and over the years, billions of pennies will flow back to the system in coin counting drives, bank returns, and scrap shipments. From a collector's standpoint, here's the fun part. As in Canada, the common stuff disappears first. Beat-up memorial cents and zinc shield cents will quietly vanish into the melt. High-grade survivors, early dates, key mint marks, and oddball varieties will increasingly define the real population of the series. 50 years from now, your roll of pristine 2010 Philadelphia shields might look a lot more interesting than it does today. The pennies that we now consider common items in circulation actually will in 50 years become, or at least even maybe start being, collectible US coins that you will want to stuff your albums with. So how should a serious numismatist think about the end of the US penny and this historic era in US coin history? There are a few takeaways. First is that the penny is now a complete closed series. From the 1793 chain cents to the 2025 Omega Mark shields, we have a 232-year design arc with a clearly defined beginning and end. That makes the cent one of the most historically coherent and collectible denominations in the United States coinage. Second is that there are many series within the same series. If you are a coin collector, you can specialize in early copper large cents by their Sheldon varieties, Flying Eagle and Indian head patterns. Lincoln wheats by their mint mark or error. Memorial era varieties, modern shield scents, or you can specialize in the very rare modern satin finishes, proofs, and now these Omega privies. The third is that modern issues just got a much more interesting. Many years, most modern scents felt like junk box materials that changes when the denomination is dead. Late date runs, low mintage proofs, and transitional compositions tend to get reevaluated. We've seen this story before with the half cent, large cent, 2-cent piece, and classic commemoratives. The 232 Omega sets are the tip of the spear and not the whole story. Yes, those Stax Bauer sets will grab headlines, and they do deserve to. But for most collectors, the real opportunity lies in the high-grade, late-date business strikes, especially the 2025 P&D shields. Interesting errors from the final production years, and of course, key and semi-key dates all the way back to the early copper era. What we are watching currently is numismatic history. Usually, when we talk about the final year of something, it's a line in the book. Right now, it's a line at your local bank. You can literally walk in, ask for a box of cents, and tell your kids and grandkids that these were among the last ones ever made, and that if I would go a week or two later to get the box of cents, I would not be sure if the bank would have these pennies. So currently, we are living through a key moment in numismatic history. Normally, coin collectors were only used to reading about these moments in books and seeing key dates and finishes, but we currently are living through the production of 232 key date coins that in 100 years will be in scarcity, not even comparable to the 93S Morgan dollar and about at the level of the 1804 dollar. The US penny has outlived empires, economic panics, 2 world wars, the gold standard, the silver standard, and more design debates than any other American coin, only to fall due to the increase of copper and zinc prices. It started as a hand-engraved chunk of copper big enough to lose in your palm. It ends as a tiny copper-plated zinc coin with a microscopic omega mark, and in 232 special sets as a 24-karat gold farewell. For collectors, this isn't the end of the story. It's the moment the story becomes complete. So the next time you spot a lonely cent in a parking lot, you might still step over it, but maybe, just maybe you'll pick it up, flip it over, and think about the 232-year journey that brought that little coin into your hand. Thanks for listening to Coin Americana. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history and the end of the US penny, share this video with a fellow collector and let me know what's your favorite cent design and why. Is it the raw history of the 1793 chain cent, the nostalgia of a wheatback from your childhood, or the strange, shiny modernity of a 24-karat gold omega? Until next time, happy collecting and keep your eye on your change. There's still history hiding in there. Maybe you can find a scarce wheat cent or maybe even an Indian head cent in your pocket change if you look closely enough. So for a special event in December, if we reach 232 subscribers by December 31st, I will send out to one of you a graded MS64 RB Indian head cent in absolutely beautiful and stunning condition that will make you cherish the 232 years that the cent has lived for.